Hello and welcome to Indonesia This Week. I'm Helmi Johannes in Jakarta. First, this week's headlines. The Indonesian Immigration Office denies reports that it had cancelled the passport of Zarima, the ecstasy case fugitive arrested in Houston, Texas last Monday. Director of Immigration Control and Enforcement, Zaiman Nur Matia, said Thursday Zarima's passport is still valid until the year 2000 and his department did not cancel it. Zaiman adds Zarima is being detained by U.S. authorities on an overstay case and not for using illegal travel documents. And to find out about this week's weather, here's Kuku Sanyoto, our weatherman. Kuku?
Thanks, Helmi. And how's your weekend? Well, for the next couple of days, we'll be expecting some heavy rains and typhoon and thunderstorm across Asia, particularly in the Philippines. Ernie is crossing by now. It's in the South China area and apparently picking up a lot of moistures and moving toward the west, towards Vietnam and Cambodia in the next couple of days.
Thanks, Kuku Sanyoto, our weatherman. And on this week's agenda, Boni Setiawan is showing his latest works in an exhibition called Into the Heart of Java at the Duta Fine Arts in Kemang South, Jakarta until November the 12th. While the etchings, lithographs and serigraphs of Indonesia's painting maestro Afandi are on display at Maruzen Gallery in Pasaraya, South Jakarta until November 12th. And an evening lecture by Philippe Denglal titled Irian Jaya Rock Art is held on November 12th at the Erasmus House, South Jakarta, beginning at 7:30 in the evening. And that concludes this edition of Indonesia This Week. Thanks for joining me this evening. From RCTI Studio 5 in Jakarta, I'm Helmi Johannes, along with this week's news team, wishing you a very good night.
Good evening, welcome to this edition of Indonesia This Week. I'm Desi Anwar. And on this week's headlines, an epidemic of respiratory diseases has killed 229 people in Irian Jaya. Regions in the Jaya Wijaya area said last week that 120 people in the sub-district of Okbibab and 100 people in the sub-district of Trikora had died from respiratory illnesses since January. And that's all for Indonesia This Week. I'm Desi Anwar. Thank you for joining me. Have a very good night.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us on Indonesia Today. I'm Yulia Suparmo in Jakarta. Here's a brief look at this morning's main stories. President Megawati Sukarno Putri orders stern but careful action in the case of fugitive businessman Tommy Suharto, now blamed for a spate of terrorist acts around the country. And that concludes our program for this morning. I'm Yulia Suparmo in Jakarta. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Indonesia This Week. I'm Jason Teja Sukmana in Jakarta with this week's headlines. The decision to invite foreign observers for the general election in May has been met with mixed reactions in the House of Representatives. House members Bayan Marbun and Marwa Daud Ibrahim told RCTI on Wednesday that the observers should maintain their objectivity and not pass judgment on Indonesia's system of democracy. And that concludes this edition of Indonesia This Week. In Jakarta, I'm Jason Teja Sukmana, inviting you to tune in again tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. for the latest news on Indonesia Today. Until then, thanks for watching and have a good night.